gonna take all of us to heal this world. It's gonna take all of us.
That is by far the coolest car on the face of the planet. Guys, what is up? This is day 5 at COP28 and we've got an exciting show for you. So for today, we hear from Gore. We also speak to Barney Swan, a young environmentalist who's saving the oldest rainforest on this planet. We also check out the technology hub in the green zone and also get down to solving plastic pollution. As always, don't forget to send in your questions as it helps shape our show and we love hearing from you. The Daintree rainforest holds almost a complete record of plant life evolution than anywhere else in the world, including the Amazon jungle. Today we meet a young environmentalist who's trying his best to save the Daintree in Australia.
All right, good morning everyone. I'm here today with Barney Swan, founder and CEO of Climate Force. Nice to meet you, Barney.
Well, Tenny, it's great to be with you out here at COP28 in the UAE. It's been a very busy few days. And I'm representing far north Queensland, the top right-hand side of Australia. We're a biodiversity and climate tech accelerator, really making a unique model of how do we not only remediate damaged land, but not forget that we need to have the utility of supporting people to do that. So we're an off-grid farm, so we're dealing with energy, waste, water, all kinds of social aspects as we're planting tens of thousands of trees and fundamentally creating a model that can help support all kinds of places around the equatorial band of our beautiful planet.
Oh, that sounds very, very beautiful. I'm interested to know, for countries like Nigeria, we have a lot of subsistent farmers. Farming forms about 28% of what we do in Nigeria. So how do you think we can adopt a model such as this, like you're proposing?
Well, Nigeria is a fascinating example. It's developing so quickly. There's 220 million people there currently. And I think it's 70% of your agricultural sector is smallholder farmers. So that means that they're managing land under 2 hectares. And I'm pretty sure that they are producing the majority of the food in the country. And yet mostly the government, international organizations really aren't looking after those smallholder farmers enough. So being a non-profit, private sector, globally big conglomerates like COP28 really need to make sure that smallholder farmers are really at the forefront of the conversation. I think globally there's between 800 million and 1.2 billion smallholder farmers globally, and a lot of them are ripping themselves out of poverty, and yet they're not getting the support needed to really have options and diversification to really change up how they're doing things, whether that's switching from synthetic chemicals to organic chemicals. If you've only got yam, if you've only got livestock, there's an opportunity to diversify and have agroforestry or different crops to make sure that you're not reliant on just one food system, because if that fails, if you have a biosecurity issue or insects or locusts or whatever it is, fungi that comes in and damages that one crop, you lose everything. So I think when it comes to creating resilience for smallholder farmers, diversification is critical. And what we're doing in Australia, especially in an equatorial tropical environment, really is an integrated working model of both how do we have those diversification outcomes and the costing to achieve that, which I think often the specifics and granularity of the costing isn't discussed enough. And if you mistake that and you miss a 30% margin of the costing, potentially the whole farm goes under. So really critical that we have very good costing models. So what we're doing in Australia, I hope, can support the likes of like Nigeria, Indonesia, all around that equatorial place in equatorial band around our planet. Huge need for diversification pathways, especially with smallholder farmers.
I really like what you're saying, but I have a question. For the younger people who are watching, they are looking at and they're probably wondering how they can get in on this conversation. They're looking at how they can be a part of this change. What you're doing is really, really beautiful, and I'm sure you're impacting so many lives. How would you advise, or where would you advise that young people, there are a lot of young farmers in Nigeria, shockingly, they don't get a lot of notice, but how would you advise they start? Where can they start in terms of bringing a change?
Well, I think when it comes to land diversification, it's important to educate ourselves on the different parts of land. So there's so many green job opportunities, whether that's environmental related, within the energy sector, within education, within healthcare. And so much of that comes back to how not only young people, but all generations have a relationship to land, sea, rivers, lakes. I think that fundamentally creating that connection at an early age is really important with young people, because if you're so focused on technology, not saying that technology isn't important, but having your roots coming back to the earth, I think is really, really critical. And I think after that, just being open to what the green economy of the future looks like, and then trying to educate and inspire young people to be curious on what's happening on a global perspective at events like COP28 where we're sitting, but really bringing it back down to what regionally is relevant. So depending on what ecosystem type you're dealing with and what the regional pressures are, whether that's drought or fire risk or flooding or soil degradation, I think it's important, especially within land use, to do almost a SWOT analysis of your region. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? If you can ascertain that whole system, I think it allows that opportunity for young people to pick something and really be excited to be a part of designing what that future of that solution looks like. But to do that, we've got to look at the opportunity and got to look at the threats. So that's a broad answer to your question, but I think coming back to a very simple answer, it's really looking at different places around the world, especially throughout the African continent, and really being excited about all of the pathways that you can bring back to your local community.
Thank you so much for your time.
Very much. And let's continue the conversation, and I think fundamentally driving forward that currency of hope and trust. Even if you're a billionaire, you can't buy that stuff. We've got to earn it through having real conversations and trustworthy solutions that people can get their head around. So delighted to have this conversation. Everyone's involved. It takes all of us to design a future that we're proud of.
Welcome to the COP28 trending topics in German media. On Saturday, Germany's federal chancellor Olaf Scholz was at COP28, calling for a global phase-out of coal, oil and gas. The German chancellor is hopeful that it's still possible to reach the 1.5-degree target agreed in Paris. To reach this target, all countries will have to work together and make great efforts. In order to achieve this ambitious goal, Olaf Scholz is calling for more speed in the expansion of renewable energies. In a speech at COP28, he said, "Let's make the expansion of renewable energies the #1 energy policy priority worldwide." His call for the expansion of renewable energies includes 2 binding targets. Firstly, tripling the expansion of renewable energies. Secondly, a doubling of energy efficiency. So far, more than 110 countries around the world have committed to expanding green electricity production more quickly. As surprising news from a German perspective, Robert Habeck, the German Vice-Chancellor, will probably not be traveling to COP28. Robert Habeck is the Federal Minister for Economic Affairs and Climate Protection, and in this role is largely responsible for Germany's green transformation. As the government in Germany is busy solving a budget crisis, Habeck has had to cancel his trip. The budget crisis is also about financing our climate measures. Federal Chancellor Olaf Scholz has called on him to temporarily cancel his planned trip.
Thank you so much for your questions on solutions to plastic pollution. Let's hear from an expert.
Hello, I am Professor Muyiwa Inola. I am Professor of Innovation for Sustainable Development at the Montfort University in the UK. We do a lot of work in the area of circular economy, and which is just more or less mimicking nature. So if you think about natural systems, you see nothing goes to waste. Everything is like a cycle, obviously. So it's a closed loop cycle, and that's what we try to do with waste. Obviously, this is a circular economy model. The best option, firstly, is to avoid it, to refuse to use plastics. However, when we find ourselves using it, how do we ensure we turn it into resources that are useful? So one of the ways we've looked at it, especially in the developing world, where you have inefficient waste collection systems, is how do we turn them to value that the local population can use? So one of the things we've done is converting plastic waste to filaments for 3D printing. And then we were able to also develop a local 3D printer using upcycled materials. And so what that does is that we can get them to 3D print stuff that they need locally. So if you think about things they use for their agriculture, for their fishing, all those sort of things, there's no sense in making them in bulk. So you can make them individually. Another option, another thing we did a few years ago was to actually train people to build houses with plastic bottles. And so what we did was we had it in a village, in a small community, and then we told them this is a project, and all the plastics were mopped up and brought to the project because they got some money for it. So we built a house, it's still standing. It actually has more superior thermal performance to their conventional houses, which we did a scientific study on. So this is how we need to think about what do people need, what will be a resource that they will want to use, and then how do we transform the things that we term waste into those resources. We shouldn't look at the waste as waste. It's there are billions of dollars worth industries.
Al Gore left an impact on our youth reporters, who is leading different climate solutions in his own country. Let's hear why.
It's exciting here at COP28, and a number of world leaders have spoken, a number of preliminary meetings have happened, and today under Youth4Planet, we are reporting to see what Al Gore communicated during the plenary. And Al Gore mentioned about phasing out fossil fuels. He slammed UAE is hosting the World Climate Summit, which is COP28, and he said that UAE has polluted, it has released emissions at 7.5% compared to the world's release of emissions, which is at 1.5. And this is seen that it's one of the highest polluters, though a number of countries have pledged for loss and damage fund. You will see that UAE has pledged 100 million USD for loss and damage, which was a great commitment, and US committing at 17.5. But to see what Al Gore communicated is that it is high time we phase out fossil fuels. It's high time we stop this and also check onto renewable energy, go renewable, so that we stop this.
Thank you very much. So excited to make this presentation on Climate Trace this morning, and I want to ask my colleague and partner in the Climate Trace Coalition, Gavin McCormick, to come out and join me here. He's going to take a seat on the dais here, and we're going to go back and forth in presenting some images, and we're going to present a lot of data for you that is meant to assist anyone who is trying to find out the specific location of the greenhouse gas emission sources all around the Earth. I want to start with some images that some of you are probably familiar with. The overview effect that we've all experienced in looking at the image of Earth from space still has an emotional impact on me. And of course, the basic problem that's causing the climate crisis is that we are putting 162 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the sky every single day. And we're treating the sky as if it is an open sewer. And this blue line that shows the troposphere, you already know why it's blue. That's the largely the oxygen that refracts the blue light of the spectrum. But what's so striking about this thin blue shell that surrounds our planet is that it's so thin. If you could drive a car straight up in the air from the ground at highway speeds, you would get to the top of that blue line in about 5 to 7 minutes. You could walk it in an hour if you walked fast. And that's what we're using as an open sewer for all of the pollution that we're putting into it. And it lingers there. On average, each molecule stays about 100 years. And this is a new updated figure. The accumulated amount now traps as much extra heat in the Earth's system every single day that would be equivalent to the heat released by 750,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every day on the Earth. Hard to comprehend that much heat, but that's what we're doing, and that is the problem. That's what's causing the climate crisis. That's what's driving temperatures up year by year. And you know, there are still, 28 days left in the 12th month of this year, but already the scientists are saying it's certain that this year will be the hottest year ever measured with instruments. Not only the hottest, but the hottest by a record-breaking margin. And these kinds of measurements are startling scientists this year, particularly all around the world. The 10 hottest years ever measured with instruments have been the last 10 years, if you count this one as the hottest of all. And overnight, we got the new figures for the month of November globally. These are all the Novembers going back to 1955. And you can see that this November, just completed, is not only the hottest November in all of history, but again, the hottest by a record-breaking margin. And again, the scientists are saying, we're seeing something new. This climate crisis has been moving to a new level of seriousness, and we have to develop a new strength of resolve in fighting for solutions to this climate crisis. And the Secretary General said it as well as anyone possibly could 2 days ago in the opening ceremony here at COP28, and he said, we can solve this, but only if we stop burning all fossil fuels. Not reduce them, not abate them, phase out fossil fuels. That is the solution to the climate crisis, with a clear time frame. And you know, as with some of you, I've gone to these COPs for quite a while, and it's very common for people to ask a question. Do you think this is going to be a success, or could it be a failure? Well, what do you think is going to happen? Well, there's a clear test. If we develop a commitment globally to phase out fossil fuels, this will be a historic success. If we do not, it will not be a success. It's very clear. Don't be distracted by any bright, shiny object that's held up to distract attention from the main job. The climate crisis is mainly a fossil fuel crisis. So the reason why people around the world are hoping that it will be a success is what's been happening. Look, in China last July, 52.2 degrees, 126 Fahrenheit, the hottest temperature ever recorded with instruments in China. In Argentina, in the middle of their winter, 38 degrees Celsius, 101 in the middle of winter. In Brazil, just 3 weeks ago, 44.8 degrees in November. Here in Dubai, this is a particular concern for this region, because during the summer of this year, the feels-like temperature, of course, as you know, the combination of heat and humidity, has ranged from 55 to 60 degrees centigrade, 131 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. And what that means is that this region is in danger of developing such high temperatures and humidity that it will become, in some parts, physiologically unlivable. And scientists have been warning about this for a while. There are uninhabitable areas now, but they're relatively small. But the projections are that the climate crisis is going to be enlarging them. I'm going to go back on that slide so you see the expansion here. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Most of the heat is going into the ocean, down 2,000 meters, and half of this astonishing increase has come in the last 20 years. And many of you know what that causes. The ocean-based storms get much stronger. This is the first year in history that Category 5 cyclonic storms have appeared in every tropical ocean basin all over the world. And these storms, there was a story in one of the major newspapers in my country this morning, that these storms, the preponderance of them have been rapidly intensifying, as predicted. Last week, 1.5 million people, this is still going on today as we meet here, 1.5 million people in East Africa driven from their homes. This was in Hong Kong 2 months ago, the largest rainfall ever measured in Hong Kong. 154 millimeters of rain in 1 hour. And these rain bombs are becoming common all around the world.
Our main vision is the longevity of the human being. But there is a question behind. What's going to happen with the people if there is no planet? Hence, we are having a new initiative, which we call Longevity of the Planet. Nowadays, if you have been through our tunnel, we're bringing the experience, which is a kind of an awakening call to all the humanity. What's happening nowadays? There is a lot of flood due to the global warming processes, right? Melting of the ices. Thousands of the houses of the people are going underwater. There is a lot of plastic inside of the seas and the oceans itself. It's killing the fishes. As per the statistics, every one fish from 3 has the plastic inside. There is lack of drinkable water in many countries, and people drinking not clean water, which cause a lot of disease and a lot of deaths, which is killing human being itself. The level of the CO2 is drastically increasing recently. So the message from Pure Health is that if us as a people will continue in this way, the future for our generations, for our kids, is going to be terrible, because they will literally not have a planet where to live. They will not have a fresh air to breathe. Act as if your house is on the fire, because our planet is our house and it is on the fire. It requires immediate action. Pure Health declared that we can achieve net zero by 2040. How we can do that? Digitalization of the healthcare, bringing the hospital to the cloud. What's happening to you if, God forbid, you don't feel well? You go out from home, you switch on your engine, you're going to the hospital, right? Imagine the surface where you have accessibility to the most advanced technologies, doctors and specialists, just online, on a cloud, on a digital sphere. This, from our perspective, starts to decrease the level of the CO2 in the air, and us as a healthcare platform, we will be able to contribute and really achieve net zero by 2040.
Well, guys, that's it for day 5 here at COP28. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know, what are your thoughts on what Barney Swan had to say, and also, what do you think about the technology hub in the green zone? As always, send your questions in. It's going to help shape our show, and we love hearing from you. Tomorrow we speak to startups and hear more about innovative solutions to climate change.
It's gonna take all